platform, I decided to do the video in the group instead of the page. How are you? How is everybody? I hope you're well. I'm happy to wait a few minutes before I get into the topic. So I did send a post, was it a day ago, 2 days ago, just asking if there's any sort of topics that you would like me to bring forward. It could be, random things about, things that you may be going through, things that you may be having difficulty with confronting. I find that every day of my life, I find that sometimes, it's when you're open, when your energy is open, and when you're willing to adjust to changes and to somehow, grow and expand, then you are more susceptible to actually picking up intuitively little nudges. And these nudges are kind of like little knocks to the soul that is requiring you to ask deeper questions and to kind of examining or exploring your answers, right? So the power that lays in connection. So this is something that I wanted to bring forward today because I think and I feel that most of the time we are truly underestimating. We're truly underestimating the power that lays within us when it comes to truly connecting with the other person and therefore impacting. So we don't have control over what happens externally, but I find that we have massive influence over our surrounding, over our environment. So when you connect, there's something that I want to share with you. So with the profession that I'm in, when you work as an interpreter, it's important that you're a bridge of communication between the two languages, right? So it could be between the client, between the case manager. Now, it's really important that as an interpreter, even though you've got, very specific rules about, requirements of like not altering the information that gets passed on, you can, however, affect like a change in direction of the conversation between the two parties, right? And what I mean by that is it's kind of like the knowledge in between words. And the knowledge in between words is really that perception that comes in through, I find, through the emotive world and through the third eye. And not everybody is open to actually picking that up. It's kind of like when there's a communication between the two people, you are mostly talking to be heard as opposed to really sitting back and listening to understand what the real needs and wants are of the other person, or concerns or fears or whatever it is, so that you can better then be a response. And I find that this concept is so important when it comes to connection, when it comes to us being connected, right? There is no connection. There can't be a connection between two people if one person is simply locked into their own mind. And what I found today is reminded me of, when calls come in from such a big city, big country, when, it's like there's just so much, which is a very different vibe from, the area where I'm living in and where I come from. Not that, there isn't great hype in Auckland City because it's still a big city. But still, like I find that Australia, and because I've lived there, so I can speak, I was born in Australia. I've studied at university over in Australia, so I know the hype that there is there. I understand the nature of corporations and the way things function. So the purpose of the video today is to briefly come on to share my experience that I had today with receiving these new calls from a different city, in a different country altogether, that I have lived in the past, that I was born in. Therefore, I'm very, I completely understand the nature. So what do I mean by connection? Now, the reason why I bring this forward is because I remember as I was stressing out the actual message of the client to the case manager, is that the case manager was simply stuck in their head. So having a third party intervene, it helped to ground them. Now, in grounding them, it helped them to understand that maybe it was a 20-year-old speaking to a 90-year-old and that they can never be on the same page, right? So by intervening and by explaining the situation to them the way that I perceived it from the outside, it helped them to actually put their feet on the ground and to understand, holy heck, like this could be my grandmother. This could be my mother. If they were having difficulty, would I like someone, from an office, to speak to them this way? I honestly don't think that people pose themselves enough of these questions, Me personally, I would not want, people in offices to deal with my parents or to deal with my grandparents and, the way that I see a lot of people dealing with clients on the phone. I wouldn't. But what I greatly see is that so many clients are so confused. Like the main questions that come forward is, and I know this is it's a topic that is connected to what I've been teaching so far, but it's kind of like a bit, it's quite new because I'm speaking directly from experience from my, from my work experience. But yeah, it's just incredible how when you're in that mode of like doing and chasing time, how you forget about, hang on a minute, like where I'm human, I'm a human being, what am I doing? Like, how am I communicating with this human being that is actually struggling right now? It's actually, there's a reason why they're on the phone. There's a reason why they're on the phone. How am I coming out of my way to really listen to what they have to say? Because what I found is that a lot of the people were speaking over the other person, which is what we do a lot in the Italian culture, by the way. But and I probably did that as well a lot until I kind of learned how to become more of, a better listener. But we do that naturally, and it's not, it's not pointing fingers. I think it's just really about reminding ourselves that, when there's a two-way conversation, so the firstly is like, how attentive are we really to the other person that's in front of us? And secondly, as a client or as a case manager, how are we responding? How are we taking care of the other person's needs? How are we connecting to people? Like, what are we taking our responsibility as a case manager, as even as a mom or a sister, or just just anyone in life? How are we responding to people? Are we just responding from knowledge that we already know and that we're just kind of listening to our minds? Or are we genuinely interested in connecting with the other person and wanting to hear their void or their need? Like, what are they actually needing right now? And I know that we're not all psychologists or counselors or anything like that, but I just ask to bring attention to this dynamic when we are conversing, whether it's with clients or with family members or people in our relationship. We can all get carried away. We can all get really passionate. We can all get really passionate about what it is that we are wanting to, sort of send out. But it's important when it comes to connection to make sure that we're really doing the best of our ability to, especially if we have a responsibility, right? As a service provider or as, a partner, or to make sure that we're actually taking care of, that we're actually tuned in and we're listening and we care about, cultivating that connection. And that's actually really good practice, believe it or not. That's really good practice for yourself. So first of all, kind of goes the other way around. So if we don't have that connection with ourselves, then it's really hard. It becomes really hard to have that connection with the other person, with another person. And it's, the other way around as well. So if we are connecting with the other person, it means that we have a very clear understanding and intuition of, what our needs are. Now, what I experienced from the phone call is that every time I intervened, genuinely, because the other person, didn't have the same capacity, like cognitive capacity of like comprehension of, listening or perceiving information or receiving information as them. you know, how important it is to be able to be present in that moment, and to you know, time is something that I think we all take for granted, because we've all been taught, you know, that, you know, there's a certain perception, you know, that we give a perception to time. So yeah, so what I noticed is that these people that were on the other side of the call, that were receiving these phone calls, as I intervened, I realized that they were, you know, they went from being very hyper talkative, you know, like they were on a choo-choo train, like non-stop, and just wanting to get the message across to the other person, like not really caring what they were, you know, where they were coming from, right? Or, you know, what cognitive, you know, ability they had on the other end. And then as soon as that intervention sort of came through, then I noticed like the breath slowed down of the other person, the case manager's breath slowed down. They became more receptive. They asked, you know, better questions. Amazing. So the whole dynamic of the conversation completely changed. Now, why am I bringing up this topic? I'm bringing this topic in my own personal experience with my job and my clients today, because I could see so vividly the power in communication, and the power that comes when your intention and your priority is actually connection. It's amazing, like how things change. When we are stuck in our heads and we're literally like floating balloons, like you can see the floating balloons around. You see them. You see a lot of them. I see a lot of them around, right? But when you are literally tuned in, and you're, you know, really firm about the belief of, you know, wanting to connect, wanting to help another person, then that changes the whole yeah, just the whole direction, the whole dynamic of the conversation between the two people, which then creates a whole you know, outcome to relationships, to conversations. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you today. Sorry for the lighting. I know it's really dark here. It's getting darker here in Auckland as well. You know what I wanted to share with you as well, which is, I don't know how, yeah, it is still part of the topic. So it's so interesting. Like, I've been sketching down ideas and things because I'm creating my own perfume that is going to be very much tied with the guidelines or the guidebook of the codes of the books that are coming out. So it's all about, so it's really, again, it helps, it has certain oils and essences that work with certain energy points and energy characteristics that helps you to activate certain chakra points, okay, and qualities within your, you know, your character, your personality. Just remember, chakras that influence our character, our organ function, and our personality as well. So I'm working on the sidelines to create this product, this perfume that is made with natural essences and natural products, so that it's not harmful to the skin. And so I've been working on that on the side, and you know, I get really excited when I get new ideas, and when I'm actually when I'm taking action in the making and the creation of it. It's really exciting. So anyway, yesterday, as I was doing research, I took a little break, and I was thinking, I really want to know what, you know, all this fuss is about, the bulletproof coffee, because I'm a coffee lover and fanatic. I love coffee, but I try to not have it every single day. I, you know, tend to compensate coffee with teas, green teas, or, you know, like the detox tea that I'm in this time. And anyway, so I started to do research on it, and I was seeing, I know that grass-fed ghee is one of the main ingredients. So I was checking out online where it was that I could actually purchase some ghee. And because it's not something I normally buy, I'm like, okay, so what is a good brand? How do I know that it's natural? How do I know it's organic? I was looking around, and then I was like, you know, I might have to check some stores. And where I live in Bayswater, it's really far out from any place where there's like big shops. I have to get to Takapuna, which is the nearest, and I cross normally a park to get there. And you know, there's a number of shops in Takapuna, but you don't have like a great variety, and it hasn't been easy to get, you know, because I have asked around for it. So anyway, this is just really funny, right? So I've been in a phase where I've been working a lot on my third eye, my sixth center, chakra center, and my seventh, which is the Agnya, which has everything to do with the vision, and the crown chakra, which has got everything to do with the connection, with the universe, and also with the realignment of every single chakra within our body, right? It's what helps us keep connected, to feel connected. Now I've been working on these two chakras because since I received the sound fork tune healing, I realized that those two chakras were quite weak due to that trauma. So what I've been doing is I've been going into my toolbox, and I pulled out these mantras and these chanting exercises that I actually teach to my clients and to people and to my friends and to my family. Say hi when you come on. So I'm just sharing a little story. Initially, you're more than welcome to watch the video from the beginning, whoever's come on now. I was sharing a story about communication and the importance of, when it comes to dialogue, how we are connecting and how we can connect with the other person. So when we do put that as a priority, how it's amazing how it actually regrounds us. It grounds us, and it helps us to influence, the conversation. So feel free to go back and to watch the video. However, the second part of the video was sharing a story about the power of manifestation, which means actually bringing to life, or just kind of basically manifesting your desires. So, and this is just something really silly and small, but I just wanted to share it with you. So anyway, I was doing some research online on the ingredients that I needed for the bulletproof coffee, because I decided I was going to be making that for myself once a week, twice a week, whatever. And I was just looking around at what stores, where I could find the octane oil and where I could find the grass-fed butter. And funny enough, yesterday when I finished my training, I did aerial fit, which is great for skin conditioning and strengthening the body and stretch. So all three in one. I got home, it was late, I was hungry, so I stopped by. I grabbed something to eat, which is not something I normally do, but I know this place, they make delicious like chicken burgers and kumara chips, which is really, really nice. It was like a real treat for me. So right next door there was an Indian store, and I know that Indians love ghee. I know it because first of all, I learned from having done Sahaja yoga for so many years. It's an Indian community, and that's where I learned Sahaja yoga when I first came back to New Zealand about 5 years ago. And they use ghee, a few drops of ghee within the nose, and that actually helps to clear out the passageway of the Vishuddhi chakra, which is the throat chakra. It really nourishes the throat, because remember, our chakra and energy channels can be either overactive or underactive. So I know from that Indians use that as a tradition, like culturally they use it within their, they just use it within their culture. So anyway, I saw the Indian shop, and something just kind of led me there. I wasn't really, if you asked me, would you go, is there an Indian shop by, the place where I went to order my dinner? I'd be like, no, not that I know of. But I never really paid attention to it. Anyway, I walked outside and I saw the store, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna walk in. I'm just gonna ask to see if they sell ghee. I know it's really weird and unusual, and who would walk into a dairy to buy ghee, but I did. And there was an Indian lady. I was like, oh, do you sell ghee? And I was really calm, really grounded. And she looked at me. She's like, no, I'm so sorry, we don't sell it. And I know that a lot of the times it's so easy to just say, okay, thank you, bye. And just quickly, just be, when you're in that rush, you don't give yourself the chance or the time to actually connect with the other person, or, just really lay your feet on the ground. So I was really present for the moment, and I just felt like something told me to walk in there, and I did. So I walked in there, I asked the lady if she had ghee, and I was like, and she responded, she said no. And then I looked at her and I was like, oh, okay. And I was looking at her as if like, I was saying, I know that you know about where I can find ghee because you're Indian. I know that Indians, eat ghee, but it's just a cultural thing. So I didn't say anything, but I was just really present to that thought. So what did she do? She looked at me And I could tell she was probably like, I don't know, reading my thoughts or my energy or whatever it was. And she's like, you know what? I actually bought it yesterday, a big jar. She's like, if you want, I can give it to you. And I was kind of baffled. I'm like, really? I was like, okay. So she's like, yeah, I just bought it yesterday. And she bought it at like, I don't know how many kilometers away from Bayswater. And I said to her, sure, I'll I'll pay you for the container. So the container that I thought that I would be purchasing would be quite small, but this was like a container that was like that big. It was huge. Like I don't think I've ever seen anything that big. Yeah, so I bought it from her. I thanked her, and I walked out. And for a moment, I was like, "Wow, that was super fast." Femifestation. I say femifestation because when you desire something and you feel it physically, it becomes more of a feminine quality than a masculine quality. So I know it sounds really silly, and I know it sounds like I'm rambling on about this, right? But I really wanted to share it with you because I realized, not that I realized, it was just like it was like a reconfirmation of the power of our thoughts and the power of our desires. When we are wanting something, if we put the effort and the energy towards actually doing it or finding it or creating it, then the universe is going to respond to us. However, now this is the punchline, right? Right, so this is the first day that I actually started to connect with my sixth and seventh chakra through the chanting. So this is one of the tools that I use with my clients that I'm going to be including in the book as well. So I was chanting, and this was actually before I left the house to go to class. So I chanted, and I literally felt the surge of energy raise from my feet. But it was mostly actually from. I've had like an awakening where I literally felt the surge from the feet. It was quite different, but it was still really powerful. So the surge felt like it was kind of like in the middle of my body, and it felt like it was something that was expanding me from the outside. It was really powerful, really, really powerful. So yeah, so it was just, I feel like just from that exercise that I'd done, that literally took me like, what, 10 minutes? I feel that I walked out of the house because a lot of people think that opportunities are like outside. Where do we need to go? What do we need to do? But it's really the alignment within ourselves. And I know this is like a really pathetic, like really simple exercise that situation, scenario that I'm expressing. It's not like I'm expressing that I like manifested $1 million. But I walked out, I remember, and I was completely gobsmacked. I'm like, oh my God, it was, because for me, it was literally, it wasn't an issue to get, ghee, but it was more like, I need to do some research. I need to find out the brands. I need to find out how natural they are, where I can get them, blah, blah, blah. There was a number of things that I had to go through, and I know what it takes because I've been doing this similar research in order to put my perfume ingredients together. I've been researching the senses, their properties, how it ties to the story of the perfume and the books and everything. So, there's a bit of work behind it. And it was just a beautiful reminder from Spirit that, I am guided, I am supported, I am looked after. And this, we are all guided, looked after and supported. All of us are. And yeah, having said that, I'm going to come close to the end of the video. I know it's really dark here because I started like 20 minutes ago. But it is getting dark over here in Auckland, and it's close to sunset now. It's coming close to sunset. So anyway, so remembering that the power's within us, we can realign our energy centers. When we are realigned, when we are aligned in our energy centers, it's just miraculous what can happen to us externally outside. But it's not that whatever we want or desire or need is outside. It's more that it's within us. It's we need to put the intention. We need to put the thought towards it. We need to put the the involvement. Like we need to involve ourselves, engage ourselves into what it is that we're wanting to get. So for a moment, I realized, I'm like, so what is it that I want that I feel like I don't have yet? And then I asked myself, is it because I probably didn't actually want it really to the extent that I wanted to manifest it or femifest it? So I just ask you to really ask, to ponder to yourself as to what's a deep desire that you have, and what are you really doing to, to make it happen, to make it happen into your life. So have a think of that. And also, speed does not equal quality. And speed doesn't equal, money necessarily, or, or let's say abundance, right? So the more present we are, and I know there's been a lot of talking tonight, but sometimes it's essential, So the more present we are to ourselves, to our energy, the more we are then able to create and to influence the external environment, to influence a connection between two people, a relationship, and also to influence whatever is actually coming our way, whatever we're actually manifesting into our life. And it can come up as a form of, monetary value. It can come up as, a partner. It can come up as friendships. It can come up as, for example, an editor. I'm looking for an editor at the moment. So I've been really putting it out there in the universe, but I've also really been focusing on, just really focusing on the belief that I'm worthy enough and that I deserve to work along the side with somebody that not necessarily believes in the same, value, beliefs, thinks the same way that I do, or, a lot of the times we think that people need to be like us for us to get along with them. But it's not about that. I think it's really more about receiving love. I think it's really about unconditional love. And the people that are not the ones giving unconditional love, I think it's because they're really caught up in their own mind, and they're probably confused. I think the biggest pointer of what causes disconnection is actually confusion. Confusion of your values, confusion of your identity, confusion of what your priorities are, confusion about what your purpose is, confusion about how healthy you are. What am I doing in order to be healthy? What am I doing for myself? What am I doing for my loved ones? So the opposite of connection for me, and I can guarantee that I've worked and I've done so many exercises, and I've, bring myself so present to this. The opposite of connection is honestly confusion. And you can clear your confusion by simply opening up and having a trustworthy person to speak with. So I'm not selling myself, because I don't normally sell myself. I don't think I like to see myself as selling myself on Facebook. I realize that my audience is not actually on Facebook. I know for a fact that, the fact that I have this group and my page, it's a way to give, it's a way to contribute to society, and to share my learnings and my understandings and my expertise as well. But I certainly know that my audience is not here. However, I continue to share because I find that, we are worthy of, like sharing and being educated, like receiving education, which is not, it's typically sold to you for thousands of dollars. Education is something that is hard to have access to. Well, it's easy to have access to, but people get so bombarded with information that you never really know what is real and what is what is useful and what isn't. So anyway, so what I wanted to say is that connection and confusion are like the opposite. So if you're not feeling connected intimately, if you're not feeling connected in your relationships with your clients, with your business, it's most probably because you are confused about where you are, maybe facets of yourself, where you're heading, what you've achieved so far, what areas in your life and yourself you're wanting to grow, you're wanting to expand in. So if you are wanting to gain clarity, then you always have the option of putting your name down to have to purchase the books. So I can always prioritize your shipment. They're obviously not complete yet, but they will be. Otherwise, just really reaching out and finding people that you can trust to open up with and to get some insight from. Okay, so sending you love. It's been 29 minutes, and sorry again for the lighting, and I shall see you again whenever I feel that there's something important to share.